Hi, welcome to Andy's Let's Make a Copper Bracelet out of recycled copper session. So the idea is we're going to show you how to make a bracelet like this out of used copper pipe and some old wire. This is standard electrical wire. It's got two wires in a sheath, like live and negative, and a slightly thinner wire, which is the earth wire. Now, to keep things simple, because what we want to do is post these out to you or drop them off as a little kit once you've seen the video and see if you can have a go at making them. So we've turned this wire into nice clean straight bits and some twists. The twists are made out of the little skinny earth wire in the middle. We fold it in two, stuck it into a battery drill and spun it until you've got a nice even clockwise twist and a nice even anti-clockwise twist. If you look up close, when you put these together, they look a bit like what's called like a herringbone pattern. So if you look at this one, this is a herringbone pattern that's been finished. Now the copper pipe is cut into little short sections. You'll get 3 of these that have been slightly squished, because squishing them to start with is quite tricky, and once they've started to go, it's quite easy to squish them further, so we'll squish them for you. Right, so the process of making these is we line up our twists. Put a straight piece of copper each side, get them all level at the end. Take one of the little collars, I'm going to call it a collar. Take a collar, slide them in, it's a little bit tight, which is good. Push them in all the way to the end, and then pull it back a little bit so that they're all snug inside. They're not poking through. Can I slide that one up a little bit? Let's have a look. Right, there we go. So, pull that one back a touch. I'm happy with that. So, when we get them in and level, I'm going to give it a squidge with the pliers. And then we're going to take a small hammer and beat this flat. Now you may have picked up that we're clearly using some tools here. In your little pack will be one small set of pliers, one small hammer, and a potentially slightly dangerous tool, some snips. These are called side cutters. They're quite sharp. They're for cutting these if you find these are different lengths. And you can't really hurt yourself as long as you don't put anything that belongs to you between the blades. So don't put your ear in it, don't put your fingers in it. Just use it for cutting the copper. As you can see, this is kind of in place, it's kind of tight. Now what I'm going to do is take it over to the floor, put it on something hard, and just repeatedly hit it, not walloping it, just lots and lots of little hits, which will flatten it out, make it pinch these really tight, and it will close the end over as well. So you end up with the end looking like that, nice and tidy. these are now held firmly in place by our little collar. If you look at an example of a finished one, we're going to have one in the middle for strength, one at the other end to finish it off. Now to get the middle one on and slide it down, you'll have to scrunch these up a bit. Don't worry about that. It's not a problem. It may look like everything's falling out of place, but you'll be fine. There we go, that's sort of in the middle. Now we're not going to squish this flat right yet, because we're going to put the last section on first. When you do that, it can change the full length of this, and you want this bang in the middle really. Sometimes you'll find these are kind of slightly different distances from each other, and you do want them level. If they are different distances, this is where your side cutters come in. Now, although copper is very soft, when you go to snip the copper, so I'm going to demonstrate, so I'll shorten all these a little tiny bit. When you go to snip the copper, as it cuts it, when it cuts through, it will ping off. So it's a little health and safety thing. When you cut it, aim it at the ground, and then you're not going to take your eye out or someone else's eye out. So, this is where you do have to make sure these are all lined up, so you've got your straights on the outside and your twists in the middle. Feed them in. Get them as close to the end as possible without them sticking out. See that sticking out? There we go. Now, make sure that everything's in the right place. And flatten it. There we go. So I'm going to measure from the inside of this one to the inside of that one, and we've got pretty much near as close to 14 centimetres. So the middle of this, if you can imagine, wants to be at 7 centimetres, and he's pretty much there. So this is where I'm going to squish this flat, go quite slowly and gently so that you can move these properly flatten into place. Here we go, and you can see them flattening off and settling down. Now in a moment, I'm going to take this back to the hammer and the piece of metal that I'm banging it on. It can be a piece of metal, it can be a rock, it can be the back of an old hammer, anything that's good and solid, and make sure it's on the floor, otherwise it makes an awful lot of noise. Once I've hammered this flat, I'm also going to run the hammer along this middle ridge, the two twists. Because if you flatten them out a little bit, they open up a tad, and it looks pretty cool. You get this sort of slightly like a rope design starting to come up as the twists open out slightly. Here's a good example. Now you'll notice when I do it, I don't start hitting really heavily here and working slowly down, because as it widens out, the copper moves. And if I started beating it a lot here, by the time I got to the far end, it would kind of go a bit banana shaped. So what you'll see me doing is start here, a few hits, move it all the way down, and I'll turn it and I'll come all the way back. And I'll just keep doing that. It's about many, many hits that are gentle, not walloping it. So that's that whole process of putting everything together so that it's good and solid done. You'll notice the ends feel a little bit rough. So in your kit that we're going to send to you will be a blend of not just the pliers and the side cutters and the tiny hammer. There'll also be a small piece of sandpaper. Now the easiest way to do this with the most control is to have the sandpaper on the table and draw your bracelet along it, just to smooth off those corners. So they feel really smooth. Now the last piece of this is to turn it into a bracelet, to shape it to fit your wrist. You'll notice bracelets are not round. Your wrist is this kind of shape, not that kind of shape. Now copper's really soft. As you start to bend it, it warms up. And the warmer it gets, the easier it is to bend. And because it's really soft, if you've bent it too far or you accidentally put a right angle in it, that's fine. Just gently bend it back. Take your time. You can see from this that most of the curve starts from about halfway between these 2 points. So that's where I'm going to focus. You can see that's pretty good. That's pretty much there. Last little bit, put it on your arm. So like I said, it's copper. It's made from recycled materials. So essentially you can't really go wrong. If you make a mistake, you can just bend it back into shape. If it all gets a little bit messed up, DM us and we'll send you some more. Hoping this has been instructive and has inspired you to DM us and say, hey, send us out a pack, I'd like to have a go at that. And then send us some pictures of the results. Yay.